Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCullum, and I'm here today at the VHU, the Military History Institute in Prague, in the Czech Republic. And today we have a Praga I-23 light machine gun to take a look at. This is a developmental gun created by Vaclav Holek, one of the most notable of the Czech small arms designers. It is one of the guns that is in the process of developing towards what would eventually be the ZB26, possibly the best light machine gun design for the Second World War. It's the gun that would be adapted to, like the Bren gun is just a modified ZB26, and this is where it came from. So the origins of this go back a couple of years earlier, the early 1920s. Vaclav Holek's first gun was his Praga Model I machine gun, which I have a previous video on. That video is worth checking out if you haven't seen it, just to see where he started, because his first gun was very much inspired by the Maxim Vickers concept. This gun is about halfway between a Vickers Maxim and the eventual final version of the ZB26. And when we take it apart, I think it's fascinating to see the mixture of concepts in this design. At any rate, the Czech military looked at Holek's first gun. He only built 3 of them. It clearly wasn't exactly what they wanted. In 1924, the Czech government holds a major light machine gun trial. So in 23, Holek builds this. He presents it to the military. They like it. They order 40 of them. Production begins. They actually start the serial numbering at 21, and they manufacture up until 40, at least as a, well, the final 20 in the contract are canceled, probably because they come after this major trial in 1924. So in that trial, the Czech military is testing basically everything that is out there for light machine guns. They have a number of domestic designs. They have the Nech, they have Holek's gun from Praga, the Praga I. They have a couple other Prague-designed domestic designs, the Praga II-A, the Praga II-B from other designers. They have foreign entrants like the Darn. The Madsen gun was, like, they did a lot of shooting with Madsen guns. They tested the Lewis, they tested the BAR, they tested the Vickers Berthier, the Hotchkiss light machine guns. Kind of everything that was out there got tested. So let's dive into this. Let me take this apart and show you the inside of this intermediate Holek design. All right, let's start by unloading this. We have a belt of dummy ammo in here, but this is just a fantastic, unusual feed system. So it is belt fed, and it has a belt box on it. Push this latch forward. You can open the door, and this belt box just slides in. We have 2 little rails right there, and they slide in right there and right there. And what makes this particularly unusual is that it feeds from the bottom, and then the belt basically comes out this same side. There we go. That it's going in. It's a very, very unorthodox system. So we have a feed pawl on this side. That's the one that's going to prevent the belt from going back down. On the inside, we're actually missing the other pawl, the one that would operate. It would be operated by, well, the operating rod, and it would cycle up and down here, and it would actually pull the belt up out of this drum. By the way, the interior of this drum is very much like an MG 0815 drum. It's got a central spindle in there with a winding handle, and it does in fact just use a German Maxim belt. The gun is chambered for 8mm Mauser. You can see the wooden spindle down in there. So not a mechanical drum, it's just a box to hold the belt. We have a folding bipod here that is very similar to the version that will be on the ZB26. The charging handle, however, is external to the gun, located here. So gas piston there with the operating rod running forward, and then this is going to control all of the moving parts. We have a selector switch on the left side, abbreviations Z for safe, S for semi-auto, and R for full auto. This is one of those types where you have to lift up the pin, and then you can rotate it and snap it into a different position. The buttstock is interestingly adjustable. We have a button up here that allows us to rotate the angle of the buttstock by quite a lot. And then if I take this is the disassembly lever. but it also doubles, allowing me to run the buttstock in or out. And I'm actually just going to pull it completely out because that's going to be the first step of our disassembly. Now the gun does have a removable barrel. It's a little bit of a trick to get it out. Essentially we're going to rotate the gun kind of like an MG34. So I lift up this latch, which that allows me to rotate the receiver away from the barrel by about 60 degrees, and then we can pull out the barrel. All right, and possibly pinch the bejesus out of yourself in the process. But I want to show you the gas port on this because it's really quite unusual. So the flash hider screws off. That's not uncommon. But inside there, we actually then have a second threaded plug that's hollow on the inside. And the muzzle of the barrel is right down in there. The gas port is located inside this hollow area. So you can see it, like the gas port is going to be located right in there. This actually creates an expansion chamber inside the gas block that then redirects gas down into the gas piston. So you've actually got a big open slot of a gas port there. So that's really a pretty unusual system. All right, and now we can get to the inner workings of the gun. So I'm going to rotate this lever. That comes back to here. And this pivots down. We have a connecting pin here. I can pull that out and just remove this completely. So we've got our fire control mechanism here. This is the disconnector. This is the hammer. So we're in, let's see, if we're in full auto there, when I pull the trigger, nothing's going to happen because we need to drop the disconnector. So the bolt's going to push this down as it goes forward. Then the hammer comes up and hits. When it returns backward under recoil, it recocks the hammer, and then when the bolt goes forward, it's going to release the disconnector, etc. Hammer continues to fire. So this is a pretty standard sort of fire control group, but it's on a larger scale than we're used to normally seeing. Nothing really on the opposite side here. This is just the fire control system. Inside, we have this hybrid of like ZB/Vickers bolt. So if I pull this all the way to the back, and lift it out. And what we have here, let's see, this is in this orientation. So we have our breech face up on top. This is the firing pin. Well, the firing pin's inside that tube. So the reason the hammer here is so long is because this is at the bottom of the action. The firing pin's up here at the top. So the hammer has to reach all the way up to hit it. Sorry, I left part of the bolt in there. That is very much a Maxim style thing, isn't it? So what's going to happen here is this is the system that pulls around off of the belt and then lifts it up in line with the breech. You can see it looks like a breech face, but it actually has two extractors spring-loaded there and no firing pin in it. It is going to snap up over around in the belt. It pulls it backwards as it travels back in the receiver, and then it gets cammed upward, pushes it into the chamber, and then this drops down so that the bolt can close on it with the real breech face. Goes forward, the hammer is going to fire it, and then as this comes backward, this is our ejector here. It's a pin in the breech face, and when it gets far enough back in the receiver, there is a lug in the receiver that hits this, pushes it in, which pushes the cartridge case out the side and ejects it. So that whole system is very Vickers Maxim-ish. Where we see the ZB26 connection is with this angled cam. So this is a tilting locking block. When it goes all the way backward, like this, that's the locked position. This is the locking surface, which locks up into the top of the receiver. Very, like this would serve, this is a part of the eventual final ZB26 system. And then as the bolt carrier gets pushed backward, it's going to come back, and then this angle, this angle right here is connecting to a matching angle there, which is going to pull the bolt down out of its locked position, and then the whole thing can travel backwards. If we look inside the left side of the receiver, you can see the cam tracks to control all of this stuff. We have lugs like this one that control the up and down motion of this block. That's very Vickers Maxim-ish. Originally, there would have been a sliding feed pole here that would run on a cam with the operating rod, and that would actually feed the belt up into the action. But like I said, unfortunately, that piece is missing. So that is your Praga I, 1923. Note we have a little rubberized ejection buffer there. It's going to bounce cases out in the right direction. The main spring for the system, by the way, is located in here with the gas piston, which I'm not going to take out right now because it's tight and really quite a pain. All right, so if you watch the bolt here as I cycle this, the first thing it's going to do is drop and unlock. Right there, the back of the bolt drops. It's going to go rearward. Right now we have the vertical slider is pulling around out of the belt, and it's going to lift it up at the far end of travel, which you can't really see in there. But as it comes forward, you can see that right out there is the lifter. It's got a round from the belt that's going to go forward until just before it's ready to chamber. Right there. Yep. Right here, it's going to cam downward out of the way, which leaves the bolt free to push that round into the chamber. And the now empty case stays on this slider and is going to eject, or just really fall, out the bottom of the action. And there you go. There is Holek's Praga Model I-23 pattern, light-ish machine gun, almost completely field stripped. This specific example, serial number 27, fired at least 35,000 rounds. There's a, it went through 35,000 rounds just in the endurance test. Period documents suggest that adding in all the other shooting they did with it before and after, this particular gun probably has in excess of 60,000 rounds through it, which is really quite impressive. Speaks to the durability and the reliability of the ZB26 that would come from this. Anyway, this trial lasts until early 1925, actually. They spend 6 or 8 months just shooting different guns, testing them, evaluating them. And Holek sees where they're going with this. They don't give him like a specific request, but he recognizes that they're clearly more interested in magazine-fed guns than belt-fed guns. Of course, this was still belt-fed. And so proactively, he went back to his design shop, reworked this design, made it lighter, made it more efficient, made it simpler, made it something much closer to the final form of the VZ26, including the use of top-fed box magazines, and he brings that back to the military and presents it to them. Again, proactively. This wasn't a, we like the gun, please make these changes, and he makes them. This is him watching, recognizing what they're looking for, and providing it before he's asked, which is a really good idea. That's probably a big part of what got his gun ultimately adopted instead of the best of the guns that they were testing that fit their specific needs. So he comes back with his Model 24, and there's a series of further developments, which are the subject for another video. We'll cover those hopefully at a later date. But very, very cool to get a chance to take a look at one of the Praga I 1923 pattern guns. Like I said, really cool hybrid of ZB26 and Vickers gun on the inside. I'd like to give a big thanks to the VHU for giving me the opportunity to film this and take it apart to show to you guys. If you're here in Prague, definitely plan on at least half a day to stop in at the Military Museum here. It's a large and excellent museum covering huge swath of Czech history, as well as the rest of the world, and they have a huge display of cool experimental Czech guns, the sort of thing you normally don't see actually up on the wall at a public museum. So stop by, check them out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.